Days with My Stepsister. I'm in. I am in. Episode number 1, we're reviewing it here today. I am in. And, with this title and just with the premise, I went over it in my, top 10 to watch or what am I going to watch this season. And this was one that I was like, this could be, and it still could very well be a contender for an anime that maybe we don't watch long term, depending what avenue it takes. But I'll tell you, off the rip, episode 1, I'm feeling it. I'm vibing with it. And let me say this. If it's your first time here, I'm Dom. I'm from the Otaku Room. If you're wondering where I watched this episode leaked early, don't ask me in the comments. Just go Google this episode and the episode, like this anime and the episode number, it'll come up. Google is your friend. Make sure you have your VPN on. All right. With that out the way, Dom, make sure you guys hit the like button for me. So, Days with My Stepsister, I'm really vibing with it. One of the things I've always said here on the channel, again, if it's your first time, is when a show and a piece of media can invoke an emotion in you, whether that emotion is anger or sadness or happiness or laughter, like comedy, like comedically, like comedy, if it's curiosity, if it invokes a strong emotion in you, I genuinely think it's doing something right. Now, depending on how you feel after that emotion is invoked, that's where you can determine if this show is, and this show or any show is for you or not. And I will say the emotion that was invoked in me is a high curiosity. And the one thing I can tell you off rip too is what will take me out of this show 2, 4, 8 episodes in down the line is the tag romance. What I'm really loving about the show so far is you have these two individuals, okay, who are very awkward. Obviously, in school, they live different lives. You could tell our boy over here, I think his name is Yuta, and I think the girl's name is Saki. You guys can correct me if I'm wrong. First episode, don't expect me to be perfect with names. But Yuta, you can tell he's a very, he works part-time. He's trying to save up for school. He's a bookworm. Probably not very popular in school. Maybe has a friend, maybe two. And then you have the other one over here, Saki, who, he describes her. She's a bashoujo. She's a beauty. She's probably extremely popular. Also has told Yuta that, she only really has like one friend, but she probably has a lot of acquaintances, like a lot of people that surround her because, she's hot AF. That just tends to be what happens with hot girls is, you have this like polarity of you that you suck in a lot of people around you, even if you want them or you don't. So you can very much tell they're gonna have very different experiences when they get to school, and how they're going to interact at school remains to be seen. But they're very much awkward in their own rights. On one side of the coin, you have Saki, who very much has the single mom, has lived like the single mom vibes. Is like she sees her mom, infrequently. Her mom comes home, or, she comes home, her mom leaves for work. Her mom gets home, she goes to sleep kind of thing. So she sees her in passing. She hasn't really had the familial vibes before. So a lot of what she's going to feel is going to be for the first time. And those feelings can very much get misconstrued as romance, especially when you have someone very close in your age sharing with some of these feelings. On the opposite side, you have, Yuta, who very single dad vibes. He's kind of surviving on his own. He has his own sense of humor. He has a part-time job. He's working his own way. He also has a job. So some of the times he doesn't see his dad is probably okay because he's living his own life, But I'll say like a lot of these familial things that he maybe hasn't experienced before, like having a sibling and stuff, like it's going to be a very first for him. And a lot of these feelings, again, can get in the future misconstrued as romantic. And again, that's where kind of a lot of my hesitancy, with the anime long-term comes into play, is I really like what it's putting out there of two people kind of coming together and becoming a family, and my hope for these kinds of shows is they remove that romance aspect out of it and maybe just focus a little bit more. Like, I think knowing at the end of 12 episodes, that, hey, they're not hooking up or whatever, like this is not a domestic girlfriend type deal. Like, if they're not hooking up or whatever, like this is just going to be like a slice of life, type show. I feel like I would be a little excited, but right now I'm curious and hesitant. But what I really like what the show has really done so far, though, is it has very much like giving off like those first family vibes. And let me take a couple of steps back. So at the beginning of the episode, it very much has Utah's dad introducing him like, hey, I'm falling in love. Like I met somebody, I had this work function, and in this work function, I met somebody, I got a little drunk, she took care of me, and it just, we hit it off kind of thing, we don't know what's happened to Utah's mom, and we don't know what's happened to Saki's dad. We don't know yet on what's happened to either of those, people who are just out of the picture. But regardless, he met somebody, and Utah, definitely had a very good reaction. He was like, I'm so happy for you, Dad. Like, Mazel tov, essentially. And he's like, oh, but you're gaining a little sister. So immediately it's like, oh, he's gaining a little sister. That's cool. And I think he kind of thought of it too. It's like, oh, well, like I'll make the best of it. He seems like that kind of kid who's like, I'll make the best of it kind of thing. On the opposite side, we didn't get to see Saki's mom's introduction, but we definitely got to see them coming to their dinner. And, Utah had been provided a picture, like a little girl. It ended up being someone who's basically like, they're like 3 months apart. So I don't know what his dad was smoking. He must have been smoking something good that day to describe it as a little sister. But they meet each other for the first time. And for the most part, they generally, like, they really hit it off with each other. I think they vibe. I think her personality definitely, jives with him. They definitely give off that, playful, familial type vibes together. Utah's very sarcastic and funny. And, she's very, like, straightforward, and she doesn't get bothered by his, comedy. She actually thinks it's funny. So, again, very, familial type vibes that they're both giving off. So the first impression goes very well. And then they move in with each other, right? Like, they move in with each other, and they kind of have that big moment of experiencing something for the first time. Like, Utah finds out that Saki's life, as she explains to us, that, him and us, the viewers, is like her and her mom, they kind of share like a studio apartment kind of deal. She never really had a room. Like, so a lot of these things are a first for her, and he kind of set up her bed. He set up her curtains. He's helping her unpack, so a lot of these things are a first, for her as well. And at the end of it, Utah, Utah gets called to work, but they talk about each other, how they should be at school. And he was like, hey, I'll avoid you at school. I don't want to like put my energy on you, And she was like, actually, I think you're the one who should like, you should be worried about staying away from me because of me. And he's like, oh, I don't even know what that means. He could tell, like, I know I'm the loser at school. That's probably not you, kid. But then he has to leave to work, and he has a very hottie McToddy coworker, wherever he works, a bookstore, cafe, like coffee shop or something. So I thought that was a really cool thing that he has, some like he has a girlfriend, who just a friend who happens to be a girl who he can bounce ideas and stuff off of, which I think is really cool. And we got to see kind of that side of him and stuff. And then he comes home, and then they experience like the bath scene where he takes a bath first. He gets the water prepared for her. And again, these are just like a lot of firsts. Now, during the whole episode, there's a very melodic vibe being played, like a very melodic melody and tone being played throughout the episode that really kind of sets the tone, for the episode, and kind of really drives home that slice of life feel. And I was like, oh, I really like this. Like, I'm liking these feelings. And the whole time, all the interactions are very, very awkward. And it's like, do I like this? Do I not like this? But I will say it attracts me. Like, the awkwardness level of the show, at least the tone it's set out so far, it's very awkward, but it attracts me. Like I want to like see I want them to break that awkward barrier. So I think that is like a really, really cool thing that the show has done so far. Is like it's really set the tone, and it's done that through their words, through the script, and then melodically through the music that has been kind of played throughout the whole entire episode. So I think that it's nailing all of those slice of life feels and those like first family vibes, and like I think I really like all the stuff that it's saying out so far. I think it's really handsome, you should say. Last thing I'll kind of say about the episode is it kind of did start off a little weird. With their whole monologue about being strangers, and then they'll always be strangers and stuff. I'll just say this, like their monologue was a little weird. My feelings was like, don't date your sibling, just like you should just like if I think the best advice I can get for anybody out there, if you're gonna suddenly get a step sibling who is near your age, go date anybody else. Like just like know that even courting that in your mind, even for a second, like, hey, you want to yank one off or something, go ahead. You want to be my guest, you know what I mean? But just don't act on those feelings because you're just going to mess up your parents' whole lives by doing that if you mess around and it comes out at all. Because especially depending on most cases, this is probably your parents' last chance at happiness. So the last thing you want to do is F that up. And I think it's extremely selfish, especially when you're a kid, 16, 17 years old. You understand that by, even thinking about that you're fucking up your parents' lives. So you probably should just stay away from that. So, but that's the real world thing about the real reality. This is just fiction. None of this matters. These aren't real people, not real characters. This is just a story. So, we'll treat it as such. So anyways, Days with My Stepsister, pretty good. I would say about an 8 out of 10 so far. Very, very curious. I'm a 10 out of 10 on the curiosity scale. Entertainment scale, probably about 7 out of 10. I was mildly entertained. But 8 out of 10, meeting in the middle of those two scales. So, good showing from a first episode. It's got me like wanting to know what's going to happen next. And will we make it past episode 3? We'll see. But this was a good episode 1 review. Can't wait to see what you guys think in the comments down below. Whether you're watching this on July the 4th when it officially launches, or you're watching it on today when the leak happened, hit me in the comments. We'll see you on the next episode. Peace.